Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Startup Podcast. And today, I have my lovely co-hosts, Alfonso Castaneda, right off at the end there.
What up?
Chris Aceves.
Hello, what's going on, everybody?
And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest today. He is a talented artist, an old friend of mine and Chris's. And honestly, kind of a wreck.
Yeah, not gonna lie.
No, but
Very flattering and also to the point. I appreciate it.
very blunt. But ladies and gentlemen, we have our very talented artist, Conekodraws, a.k.a. Hector Cornejo.
Oh, they're just gonna dox me. All right. I see how
Yeah,
it is.
I
It's all out there, guys. We got him.
I have a cell phone number too. It's
Do it.
Let's
Drop it. I dare you. I swear.
start releasing everything. All right, but let's talk about you, Hector.
All right.
What are you doing right now?
What am I doing right now? Well, I'm here in a random building in the middle of nowhere.
Yes,
You
it's
guys
true.
kidnapped me from my
we're in the,
lovely home in L.A.
We're in the Palm
Threw
Springs
me in the
desert.
van and then drove me to an unsecluded
I had to do it. The
You had
boss
to do it?
asked me.
Honestly, he's not wrong.
It's not wrong.
I had to.
It's not far off from the truth.
Please hope I'm scared.
Oh no.
Okay.
But let's talk about the kind of art you do as an
Okay,
artist.
so I am.
An illustrator.
When you look at it, you're like, wow, it's anime. But then the official title, I guess, is that I've kind of come up with over the years is character illustration and design
Mm-hmm.
for just personal projects or just in general, just drawing characters from video games and anime, et cetera,
Look at that.
for either profit or fun.
By the way, where can people find you on social
You
media?
can find me on Twitter. Nowhere else.
Oh, really? Only Twitter?
Conekodraws. I canned my Instagram because algorithm changes. I'll get to that later on.
Okay.
Okay. You gotta
But
talk to us about
there's
that.
a lot that
I like-
sadly the world of art is kind of
I liked your Instagram. Okay, but let's get
awesome.
into
Cropping is terrible.
let's get into the art community
the
here.
meat.
Hector is really like our. He's been kind of like our inside.
He is our art correspondent.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been
He is the
AWOL
startup
Tristen.
arts correspondent.
due to like just working, and then out of nowhere I was like, hey guys, I'm gonna quit soon. Here's a bunch of stuff that's been happening.
Yeah.
So
Like,
we
he went
actually we haven't.
MIA, yeah.
He's been pretty MIA for the past couple like months. or
6
something like
months.
that.
Six
Yeah.
whole months.
6 months to the date. I was like, damn.
Explain, what
it
is
was
going on?
It was at this date that Hector Black
Okay, well
went
we've
by.
been through a lot. Let's see. He
Okay.
just came back earlier this year, or was it December?
It's like February.
February. He
Okay.
just came back from. He
Carolina?
spent a small stint in
Okay.
North Carolina.
Yeah,
something
a hole
like
in the
that.
ground.
Yeah. He spent a couple months there.
Mm-hmm.
Came
Doing what,
crawling.
like-
crawl-
Yeah. He was living with some artist friends you met on what?
On
Yeah.
just
Online,
just
and you know
just online.
he decided to go out there and move out, which is totally badass in my view because he actually took the step to like put himself out there and do
then was
something
haymaker
new,
right
right?
in the
Respectable.
goddamn
Right,
life,
respect.
and then
Yeah.
I came back because.
But they were being assholes.
So it was like a job, though, right? It was a job.
I gotta play that.
Not really a job. It was more like
Why
I
you gotta do
wanted
that to me?
to just clear the air of LA because I was here. I was very just
You missed
like-
the smog?
yeah all the time.
Uh-huh.
You know, it doesn't
love
smell.
this
You
smog.
can't get street dogs in NC. You can get pulled pork. You can't get a random greasy, disgusting hot dog off of a cart.
Just from like un hot dog, un dora, un
Yeah,
dora,
yeah,
un hot
yeah.
dog.
There's gonna be a lot of those outside of like LA Convention Center in a few days.
Honestly, yeah.
Jeez.
Anime Expo is in a couple days, everybody.
That's very
oh,
true.
yes. This is actually recorded on July 3rd, right before 4th of July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Way to date the
Yeah.
podcast, friend.
Honestly,
a
this
couple
won't
days
even
before
release
Anime
though
Expo.
till like the 16th, so it doesn't matter anyway.
So happy America
Yeah.
Day.
But you can still celebrate every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Because you know why? America. We're independent.
Let's go.
Every day. Just if you see a Brit, rub it in their face.
Exactly.
I mean, guess just like, hey, we're better than you.
Hey, we're
Push
free.
them to the ground. Y'all still got a monarchy.
Yeah. but you did a little stint there.
Oh.
Just to stand there to stay and like I wanted to do because it's cheaper, so I was gonna
Mhm.
eventually do a transition from working into doing full-time art, just like working off commissions and bouncing around conventions there. But due to some living differences, I came back and my family here was pretty like,
Drama.
'Cause
Yeah,
it-
no.
going from California to the East Coast,
Yeah.
like that scares a lot of people.
Yeah, honestly.
That's a culture. I remember walking into a Walmart and just nearly freaking out because I was like, holy shit, there's like nobody brown here.
So true.
Yeah,
dude.
it must-
So
yeah.
true.
Like,
It's
even-
so strange, and
It is a
just,
culture shock. Yeah.
just like
They look
I
at you
couldn't
like
take it, so I had to step outside. And
you're a
Yeah,
completely
so-
like foreign object
yeah,
to them.
yeah.
And then,
And as the time went on, it just got progressively worse, and I just like I'm coming back. I got my
Yeah.
tax
Then
refund.
the
and
homie
I-
came back and we
the
picked you up from
homie came
LAX.
back, and then we ate Norms,
We
and then I got
did,
cash back
yeah,
on it,
we
and it was
did
great.
eat Norms, yeah. Norms is the place. Shout out
Yeah.
Norms.
They don't give you straws unless you ask. I found that out recently.
Yeah, you know.
That's
Yeah.
kind of a rule that they have to do now.
I know, right?
But I don't blame 'em.
Laws.
But, he is the most spontaneous guy that you'll ever find.
Why-
Like
why?
Definitely.
he for a while he was telling us that he was gonna come back. He was like, all right guys, I'm gonna come back next week, and then
Not even next week.
No, I said
Like,
I'm,
like
I'm
next
coming
month.
back
Couple-
June.
yeah,
I said I'm
couple
coming back
months.
around June.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
And then
Just
out of
taking
nowhere,
shit.
I was just like, yeah, guys, I'm coming back now.
I'm on the
because,
plane right now. Can you pick
got
me up?
bad.
I'm on the plane. Could y'all pick me up?
Like,
I was
it- I don't-
damn.
like, going into detail about it, there's something I don't want to do, but just know that a couple days before I left, it got, like, pretty bad.
It got heated.
Really?
And then the only saving grace I had was that I filed my taxes when the government shutdown lifted for, like, a few days.
Oh, so you forgot.
And in that few days, I got my refund and was able to just zoom back.
I see.
I bought the first ticket out
Mm.
and just took a lift at 2 a.m. to get home.
Damn, dude.
It was a wild ride, very
Yeah,
wild.
Yeah.
It was very
About
yeah.
it, man. It was probably awful. But
Man's
Yeah.
been through a
you know,
lot.
you're here
Yeah.
though.
I'm here.
You're here.
I'm here now.
Alright,
And
You
now we're
survived.
talking about the anime
On to doing
or
better things.
art
Yeah.
community. You know, we were driving over here and you wanted to talk about macros and micros.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
The
okay,
art
so-
community.
Talking about in a macro sense, so art is this broadened spectrum of being able to put your emotion and subjectivity into a visual media
Yes.
so that it can be consumed by the general populace, so you can hopefully either make profit or get a message across. It's very open to what you can do, but it's just within that there's these subgenres of it's separated into like this huge like bundle of shit that eventually
yeah.
just equates to people throwing shit at the wall and then you being like, oh look, looks like Goku.
Yeah, it's
cool.
because, you know, there's so many different types of artists. There's illustrators as yourself, like
Yeah.
animators, you know, there's comic book artists. And even in then, it's like, okay, as a comic book artist, what do? Do you do the pencils, the inking, the lettering, or the coloring?
Oh, gotcha.
You get me? Or as an animator, to do in-betweens, keyframes, to do background. Like, you know, there's so
Yeah.
so
Layers.
broad. Yeah, so
Yeah.
many layers. so
True. It's very
so
true.
many
Mason
layers,
joke.
Yeah. So many layers. Yeah, you're right.
But what are you saying? Like, is there like a how do you say like a problem between the community because of that, or?
In a way,
Yeah.
each subsect has its own problem. So
Gotcha.
you'll eventually see them cross over. It's like these traditional painters, like oil painters, will be like, "Wow, look at these digital painters in Photoshop and not doing anything." And then in that subsect, people are like, "Wow, people who use Photoshop are better than people who use Clip Studio Paint or like Paint Tool SI." And then in that, you have people who are like, "Wow, you're using this brush in Clip Studio Paint. Use this one, you loser."
It's just
And then
people
in
think
that,
like,
it's just it progressively gets to this specific niche problem that people have that people like will complain about.
Yeah.
Like in the Photoshop community, I guess it's basically like if you're not using natural textured brushes, you're doing something wrong. Or if you're using all the tools to your advantage, you're doing something incorrect. Like you're not creating good work. And it's like, no, those tools are there because you bought them. You should be able to
Yeah,
use them.
all.
Yeah.
You get me?
It's
There's
like
a lot of-
if I gave you a wall of like markers and I told you you can only use red, you'd be like, well, fuck you. I'm gonna use
Yeah.
green.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
There's a lot of shaming in the art community.
Yeah,
is
there
what
is.
you're trying to say.
Really?
You get me? Like, there's a lot of like, oh, you do this. Oh, I do this better. You get me?
Yeah.
There's always somebody trying to one up you, no matter what. Like, you get me? Whether that be like, and not even in skill, just like in how they do things. You
Yeah.
get me? Their
Some-
way of doing
Yeah,
things.
Yeah.
somebody will. There's
Well-
always that one person or a couple of people, but they get highlighted. That's the sad part,
Mhm.
where you're all as a community trying to create works that the people who don't do art or who don't draw can enjoy
Yeah.
as an entire population. So like, there's always a need for art. There's always a
Mhm.
need for somebody to draw something, but to be in that community where it's like, well, you drew this, well, I drew this, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, what does
Yeah.
that matter? It doesn't
Is
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
Is it because the art community is so saturated that you think there's
It's
a
very,
sense of,
it's
like,
become very
shaming?
saturated.
Because
So I
people
wanted-
are constantly trying to get above the other. 'cause
Yeah,
that's
so I
your
wanted to
career.
talk to Chris. I talked to Chris like as on the way over here.
Yeah.
When the advent of the internet created this huge explosion of new age art that people weren't familiar with.
Mm.
Like it's when Newgrounds and E-Bombs World and these tube sites and whatnot came around, and
these forums for art,
these forums for art everywhere, just created this way of drawing where it's just insane how many styles developed off of that. You had these people who were just scanning in their sketchbooks and then showing them to people, and then you have people who are coloring their sketchbooks in programs like early Photoshop, or you have people who are creating animations in PowerPoint and posting them online. Like, it was insane. And with Newgrounds and whatnot, people decided, well, either A, I want to do that, or B, I need more. And there was that huge supply of back and forth, just supplying it and ingesting and supplying and ingesting and supplying and ingesting, and that flourished a lot of people to be like, well, I want to create original works, or I want to do fan art of this because I'm a fan. And then because of that, you have this huge boom of just new artists, and there's new technology. Like, it wasn't until recently that display tablets, similar to the Cintiq, have been made widely popular and widely available.
And so good.
Really?
And so good. Like, I went from the 21UX we had, which sadly it was damaged in shipping, and it's now.
I remember that. Yeah.
It cost a lot.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know.
That was a shame. I'm still really beat up about that. I still love that tablet.
I'm still annoyed at what that guy tried to charge us to send
Yeah.
it to
Was
you.
it $220? Or what was it? Upwards of 400? What was it?
It was something ridiculous.
Yeah, it was something ridiculous. So we went to FedEx, and we were like, because he wanted the tablet.
Cool.
And so we were like, oh, we'll ship it to you, no problem. And so we go to FedEx, and this food says like 400, 500. Let's just throw that number. And I literally say,
Yeah, I would too.
Like,
I wouldn't blame you.
that,
That's why I was like, nah. I was like, you can take all the time
that.
you need to get it here.
But good thing though, my uncle, he works. Shout out to my Tio Yil. Thank you.
Okay.
We work at he works at FedEx. And so he was able to give us a discount, pretty big discount.
Right on.
Yeah.
But then they broke it on the way to shipping.
So
So going on that, so when I was in the East Coast, we were struggling with rent, so I had to take a large amount of emergency commissions, which I'm still trying to finish up recently, but due to work, it's a whole thing. I had to do 5 commissions on half a tablet because the left side of my screen didn't work. So I had to, and then we had this one guy who wanted me to do a pinup for a business he had, and I had to paint like a pinup using the right side of my monitor and not the left side, and that's a whole ordeal where it was just I'll get into that later about hiring artists and etiquette and like what you should watch out for, because there's some things you should like consider when commissioning an artist. Like,
I was thinking about how you said about the how the art community after the internet became so broad. I think at that time you actually see the emergence of a bigger consumer culture where it's more just about consuming than quality. Yeah, because there's so much being put out there that all you want to do is, let me see more. And it doesn't matter.
We were talking about that. Yeah,
it doesn't matter the quality of it.
So we were talking about how I brought up the analogy of like the I guess the subjective value of
art,
the Sistine Chapel versus salad fingers. Now you may look at me smiling and be like, well, of course you dumbass. Of course the Sistine Chapel is amazing, but you got to think, salad fingers came out when the internet was finally fast enough to watch videos.
Yeah.
Shockwave was the thing to do when you had no time. You had to just watch like flash animations after flash animations because it was interesting, and it was either A, watch TV and watch Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, or you could watch these fucking stupid cartoons on the internet and watch like 800 of them at a time because you're bored.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why pages like Stick Death and Stick Page and all that.
Yeah, you kind of sort of see that now in a way with YouTube.
Yeah. So I'll get to that later. So with when I talk about the subjective like value of them, it's like, sure, the Sistine Chapel is this amazing like artwork mural. It's everything. Yep. But then you look at salad fingers and you realize a lot of people saw this because there wasn't anything else to watch.
And enjoyed it too.
And they enjoyed it. They wanted more of it.
Saw it because and that's another issue, is that because of that broader spectrum of people just releasing stuff to release, there's more of a clout culture.
Yeah.
There's a clout culture. Like clout is like, I want to be, I guess, famous.
You want to be viral. You want to
get viral. You want to be popular.
So you're just posting things.
Yeah, you just posted things for the sake of posting. So say there's a very popular anime. It's called My Hero Academia. When that came out, a bunch of art came out based on that because that was the it thing. Even on YouTube, a lot of people, they talk about the it thing because that's what's then and new, and then that's how they get more views. You get me? Than talking about something that they actually like, that they actually enjoy. Yeah. So they just trend hop. You get me?
I get you. I get what you mean.
It's this big trend hopping thing. Sorry, what are you saying?
It's hard though, because like as an artist, you want to go viral, right? Yeah. Do you necessarily see it? I know it's like you say it gets saturated, but is that necessarily a bad thing?
Yes, it is a bad thing.
It is and it isn't.
Because go for it.
Okay, it's because there's this pool, let's just say, of 80% of artwork that will not be seen. I mean, it will be seen by some people, but it's meaningless. You get me? Uh-huh. Like, there's so many, like, per se, My Hero Academia, right? There's so many artists doing the same thing that nothing is special anymore. See, that's the issue with oversaturation. Like, the thing is, I think if you really want to make it as an artist, people pay you for your style, not by how you could copy things. People, if you're able to develop your own, I mean, that's like filmmakers. You get me? Quentin Tarantino has his own art style. Woody Allen has his own art style. Even Steven Spielberg has their own art style. And people pay him enough because they developed that throughout time. They didn't just say, oh, okay, you know, because Steven Spielberg came up in the 70s. You know, I'll just copy Francis Ford Coppola and, like, I'll do The Godfather a couple times. Like, he didn't do that. He said, you know what? I'm going to make more family-oriented films, right? But that actually cater to the family and not just to children or to, you know, mom and dad. And that's how he became big. You get me? Or Woody Allen, like, I'm going to make a modern romantic comedy. You get me? And all these people, they got big because they had a style that people were willing to pay for. They didn't just copy what came before.
So you recommend, so what do you recommend for new artists then?
New artists?
Yeah, so for them to grow, especially in the saturated market.
To grow, that's the big thing where it's like, if you're new, you want to grow.
Yeah.
Doing that now is pretty difficult, but also you have to understand that if you're getting famous for doing the same thing everyone else is doing, why would I look at your work? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. You have to do something. Either you have to take the big thing to do and then throw a weird, strange juxtaposed twist on it and like make it, like, give it some flavor, you know what I mean?
Something that's like cute
That's
and
the
scary.
way that you stand out to retain an audience.
Stand out to retain an audience.
Okay. I don't know. I definitely agree with what you're saying with the whole saturation thing is fine. But let's say like your style is similar to that. Don't you feel like trying to stand out is forced? Like, oh, I need to force it now just to be different.
That's the problem with a lot of artists right now is that it's that big push to like, well, I want to do this for the rest of my life, and so I'm going to force my way in and just just immediately commissions. And I've seen that a lot where artists will start drawing for like 3 years and they'll say, I'm open for commissions. And then lowball themselves, get a bunch of commissioners to draw in a different style, and it's just damaging them. Because when you're stylistically developing, you want to draw what you love because you take pieces from different works. Like my style, I took from a lot of the Udanet artists from like Iron Pinky and what was it, Roboto.
What's Udanet real quick?
Udanet is the Capcom, I believe, the Capcom publishing site.
Yeah, I can see. I can
they're
definitely
they're very very talented artists. All of them very great.
You're not wrong.
You can't like go wrong with them. They're all great. And then there's artists that are very popular. So going from the biggest to the smallest. So very popular artist that I love is was it Kronprinz or Kufshnavilia? Everybody loves him and his work. It's great. It's like hyper realistic, but not really. His environments are great and his characters look great and everything just looks awesome. Going down from there, Mark Brunette is one of my favorite concept artists. I've talked about Mark Brunette. I did a whole presentation in high school about Mark Brunette. He's one of my favorite artists. He's a ex-Blizzard artist. He runs Brush Boost now, which is like a tutorial site. Very good. And then down from there, you have the Udon guys, who I guess are a little bit less popular because Brush Boost is big. Like, it's a big thing. And then you have the Udanet guys, which they're all good. Iron Pinky, was it Rob Porter, all of them are good. And then down from there, I have my like little pool of artists that I love. Just like these little people that are really fun.
But you see, this is what's important is that, like I was telling you this in the car, because like you said, like, you know, how does an artist stand out? Study a lot before you try, because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I wanted to, like, you know, when I said style, I want to develop a style. How to develop a style? You have to learn the history of what you're trying to get into to know what can be done, what hasn't been done before. You get me? If I'm going into romantic comedies, the whole like, oh, she hates him, they hate each other, but they get together at the end. That's such a trope. Why am I going to go for that trope? But if I'm not into that space, if I don't know, but I'm trying to do it, I might do it just because I've seen it before.
But with an oversaturated market, where do you start?
You just start by yourself. You start looking at artists that you
See,
like.
when you start, the big thing is like, I'm going to create an Instagram page, I'm going to create a Twitter page, I'm going to create a DeviantArt page, and just start posting. No. Don't post.
Yeah, don't.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
It's because there's an impatience. A lot of
Because,
artists,
yeah,
they
there's
just
this
wanna get into it.
Yeah, there's this huge impatience where it's like, I've done this thing, and then you want those favorites, and those favorites feed into your, well, I'm doing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, when Newgrounds came out, there's a lot of artists who talk about it where it's like, when Newgrounds was first introduced, there's this, people would post stuff and then get like immediately destroyed by critique and and a lot of them say like, without that, I wouldn't have been this great style like front leader. Like, what was it? It was Eagle Raptor.
Yeah, Eagle Raptor.
His style
one
was,
of the most
his style was very, he mentioned a lot that he was just like, he would just get bullied and beat on by just people who were just critiquing him. And then eventually he just came out with this style, the shade, he calls it shade color, which is using complementary colors to shade drawings.
Okay.
And it created that like, this weird like pastel type like light color, and it looks really like, you can tell it's his.
It's great.
And he front led that. And
He
a
was
lot
the
of
leader
artists of that era started like use that. And it was great.
Mm.
But you have to understand that he came from, well, I was beaten to the ground and I had to do it. But now it's this culture also where you want to support these artists who are developing, but at the same time it's hurting them because
you want to put it in a nice way.
Yeah, you're supporting it. You're supporting, I guess, negative attributes. Like you're supporting the lack of true understanding of foundationary experience.
True criticism, right?
Yeah,
True
because everybody, I think in the art community especially, I was telling Hector that there's a lot of like introverted people and there's a lot of people that don't really, I think, like confrontation.
Yeah.
You get me? Or at the very least they do, but they always want to be sit down, okay, let me explain why this is bad in a very soft. It's like sometimes you just need somebody to tell you, hey, bro, this sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not because it's bad, but it's just, it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So are you saying not to post because of they're not there yet, or to avoid that criticism?
The thing with artists, and the hardest thing with artists I've noticed with it myself, is that you go through these first couple years of like, okay, I want to make this my life. The reason why you're an artist is because you have such great taste, and you see that there is this window in the market that isn't being filled, that you're like, damn, I want to get into that. But it takes years. The thing is, a lot of artists, they don't want to put up with the years that it takes to get into that field, that niche, and be a front leader.
I've tried to, like, people have come to me and told me like, hey, can you teach me how to do this thing, or can you teach me this and this? Yeah. And I'll do my best to provide all the help I can give you, but it's up to you to do the work. And I've met, I can count them on both hands, and they've just given up after a week because they say I'm not developing and I'm not getting it. And it's like, I don't expect you to get it. I'm not expecting you to be amazing in after a week. It's not like one trick to be the greatest artist of all time.
Yeah.
Like you have to understand, you have to draw what you love.
Well, it's like, shout out to the Football Amateur Show. Well, we were talking about it once that you were telling me that in Europe they have specialty schools for kids that are specialized in soccer to go there, right? And that's why they put them in there so that by the time they're 18, they're ready to play. They're ready to show money. You get me? And then that's what people need.
I guess the biggest thing I'm just I understand what you guys are saying about. The thing I just don't get it is like, why not post? Just why not get started? Because in my experience, just getting started is what inspired me.
I think I see what you're confused on. Is like, at what point do you start actually?
I feel like it's just start to get started.
Because in the beginning, it's when your first post comes out. Yeah. Realize that artists are very emotionally fragile people.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because when you draw something, you're pouring all of your love into that piece because you're working on it. And to have somebody just come out with like, this is shit. How does that make, like, it's two types of people. Either I'm going to develop and keep going, or fuck this.
I think it's just dependent on the medium you're trying to get into.
Yeah. And at this point, there's a lot of people who are just like, I'm going to just...
I got to leave right now real quick. But, yeah, I get what you guys are saying. But if you're going to post something, if you do want to make it big, or if you do want to, I don't know, just... Because the point of being an artist is, like, people getting to see it. You know what I'm saying? Some people are not gonna like it. Some people are gonna love it. it shouldn't matter what they think. You put it out there to react to, for people to react to it. If that's how they're gonna react.
That's the divide where it's between.
I don't
Are
know,
you
the
drawing
thing-
for yourself or are you drawing for people?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just a huge decision you have to make by
It's like a
yourself.
huge
And there is a subsect of people who draw for people.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying if you're trying to get into the space where you're trying to get a following
Yeah.
on a social media platform,
draw
I
for
wouldn't
yourself.
recommend just posting.
Mhm.
Like if
Okay.
you're going to, say you're going to like art events or whatnot and you
Yeah.
want to draw there, yeah, show your work to people in the industry who are above you and people who know what they're doing
Yeah.
Okay.
and get critiques from them. But if you're just going to throw your work out in the ocean of people who are willing to tear you apart, you're going to feel horrible and you're probably going to stop working at it.
No.
Okay, so it'll be discouraging, is what you're saying?
Yeah, you're going to
mostly.
be
You have to
incredibly
be careful
discouraged
with
if you just throw your work
discouraging
out there.
aspect of it, Yeah.
I could see where Alfonso is coming though from.
Mhm.
Yeah,
'cause,
I can see it too.
You know, like that's how the football amateur show started in the first place.
I
It's
guess
kind
just
of
from,
just
like-
the sense of just doing it just to do it.
Yeah.
I could see why. And
And then from there, developing your style just by doing, and from the critiques that you get, from the things. I just feel like you shouldn't just not start. I feel like just get started in some way.
Well, the
That's
thing
the
is,
thing.
with
Just-
art and
just get
podcasting,
started.
they're two fundamentally different
Yeah.
things.
No,
The
and
Yes
podcast-
and
even
no.
even
Yes
then,
and
it's
no.
like when you're starting, because there's this mentality also where it's like, well, who are you to give me this critique?
Okay.
And that's why I say when you're starting, learn from people who are above you.
right.
and-
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I definitely get what you're saying.
Better yet, let me explain this. So when you started the podcast, you
Yeah.
knew you needed equipment, right? And you have to start with a certain amount of equipment. That's what we're telling artists to do. Start with a certain amount.
Start
of
with your
equipment.
foundations, and
Exactly.
because
Yeah,
if you
okay.
Because you can't just go into making a podcast just okay. Hello, everybody.
But you can. though.
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I'm
can,
saying? And then
but-
from there, develop.
but
That's
it's
what I'm
the
saying.
you
quality.
can, but at
Yeah.
the same time, people have made the same mistake that you're doing.
Got
So I'm saying, why make that mistake rather than just starting from where somebody else made that
Exactly.
it. Here's
mistake?
what I'm saying. Why
Okay.
not get the experience? Here's that's where I'm disagreeing.
Mhm.
I mean, I love what you guys are saying. I don't definitely get it, but I just feel like don't get discouraged. Just go out there and just do it. Because I feel like the best experience is from your own.
No, we're not saying
You
not
know what
to
I'm
do
saying?
it.
We're not saying not to do it. I'm just
it,
saying
To publicly do it or public post.
what
it.
about just saying don't get too emotionally attached to your
Yeah,
work?
exactly. That's, I
beginning.
guess
that's
what I'm
also not
saying.
true
also-
because
No?
you should be attached to your work. You should draw what you love,
Mm.
but just keep in mind that there are people who will disagree with what you do and who will critique you.
Disagrees, to put it nicely.
Right.
Just nicely.
It's an
They'll
interesting
beat you on the
topic. No,
fucking
this
ground,
is-
all
this
right?
is-
You'll
yeah.
get goddamn trashed. I
Yeah,
swear.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't F around, bro.
Honestly, I love this topic. This is a great topic. I feel like I have so much more to say, but
Where you gotta go?
I do have to go. But no, I see what you guys are going with this. I see what you mean. Like, don't.
Okay.
What's your final question?
Yeah, what's your final
My
question?
final.
Let's hear your
Well, here's the
final
thing.
thoughts.
Before my final thoughts, in my opinion, I feel like you should just go for it, get experience.
Mhm.
Also support your local artists.
Mhm.
Critique them also.
Very
Yeah.
different.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Don't be
If it's
afraid to-
asked
Don't
for,
be afraid. And
please, that's a big thing too.
Yeah.
If you ask you to
Respect-
critique it, do it.
Exactly.
If they just post something and you're just like going off on them and they're just like, because it confuses them.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And you know what? In the artist community, it's the support.
There are times and places to do critiques. And you
Exactly.
should
I know
do
what
that.
you mean.
Yeah.
So just support your. I mean, I'm coming from an experience from a different art form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, and I feel like the best thing is just to get started, get your experience, support your local.
Your
gosh,
artists. Well,
artists
yeah,
as
yeah,
well,
yeah.
you know,
Others in the
fellow
field.
fellow
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
as
Because
well.
there's probably people in college or in high school that are very good artists. Honestly, give them a shout out.
Why not?
Doesn't
hurt
You know,
you.
it doesn't hurt at all. You have followers.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you can. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
That's very true.
And just, I mean, enjoy the process. That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
agree with
biggest thing for me. But
Yeah.
no, like I get what you guys are saying,
Mhm.
but respectfully,
I
disagree.
respectfully
I'm just
disagree with that. No, it's
No,
okay
no,
to
no, no.
I think you're
But
a
again,
fucking
it's great
moron.
that we can talk
real.
about this. You know,
Yeah.
It's great that we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I appreciate you guys because it's a different viewpoint.
I appreciate
you know?
the devil's advocate.
Yeah,
You get me?
exactly.
And you? Yeah, just like.
And now you can actually play devil's advocate.
I guess you
Yeah.
could say that because it's
Good.
you know, honestly, it's cool because like
Yeah.
what you guys are talking about is so new and then just nothing.
Well, it's
something that
because you need, because I guess one sector of their community that I do see that's missing is like, kind of, I don't want to say like I'll say it, like a centralized kind of like view from
Uh-huh.
people that are artists. You get me?
Centralized?
Well, it's because a lot of artists, they're closed off. They're individual.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like we're a group of people talking about.
There's no like council deciding this. It's always just like throw your cards where they land kind of
Gotcha.
deal.
Mm.
Yeah. You know, and like we're trying to provide,
And
at
you-
least that little some part of people that are like, I want to be an artist. How can I make it? And we're trying to give advice, or we're having these arguments that it's like, should you not do it? Should you do
Yeah,
it? I think
yeah.
that's important because you don't see that a lot in you know, in
because
the
it's
art
different
community.
experiences. It's
Yeah.
different experiences because that's your experience and this is what I'm experiencing,
Mhm.
and they're both right. I think
Yeah.
they're both right.
I think
Both
they're
have
both
valid points.
valid
Exactly.
points.
Valid
too.
Like,
points.
again,
Yeah,
there's-
both have valid points.
Again,
Exactly.
there is a
Yeah.
space for both viewpoints. Like,
Right.
convention artists will throw their work out there
because they need to. That's how
because they need to,
Right.
because you're making work for people.
right? Yeah.
And then there's the social media artists or the
Right.
like concept artists that will make their work for themselves.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay,
Mhm.
I see what you're saying.
Like you see, that's one of the issues with art
Interesting.
too.
Yeah,
is
that's-
that,
there's
like,
no
yeah,
centralized.
yeah.
That's subfield. I think it's because me and him are coming out. He's like, I want to be in animation. You can't
Yeah.
just post. You can post stick figures, but like, you get me? Like, what type
Everyone
of story could
does
you
it.
do?
I
And he
guess
does
I see what you're saying.
illustration, so it's
Mhm.
like, like the level of quality you need to do that field is, there's a
Mhm.
barrier, so to speak.
Interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you can't do it though.
Of course.
Go
of
for it
course.
and do it,
Go
right?
For it and,
And practice, most importantly, be consistent in your practice.
Just don't feel like you have to post.
Yeah.
I see.
Never
Okay.
feel like you have to post, and never post something that you're gonna get like beaten to the ground on. You know what I mean?
That you're not fully
Yeah, because
confident in.
if you're, because the critiques that hurt the most are the ones you believe.
Right.
Yeah.
And
the biggest thing is not to take anything personal.
Oof.
For sure.
Yeah.
But
Ain't that a
but
quote?
saying that is different than
it's
feeling
very
that.
different
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it is you.
I
But
get it.
you can't take it personally if it's you.
Exactly.
But yeah,
No.
Yeah.
Do you gotta step out now?
I gotta
You've
step
been-
out. But
you're gonna
honestly,
be
it's a
late.
great topic. I love this.
The
I love
greats.
this.
All right, bud. Welcome
Yeah,
to
yeah.
Funds.
Okay. But it was
Good
great, dude.
looking,
Honestly, it's
man.
great meeting you, man.
No problem.
Can't wait to listen to this.
Got better things to do apparently.
I'm out.
Very busy.
He's gotta hang out with the family.
No, but
he's
I just
going-
gotta work.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, yeah, go to work.
It's like, I'm hightailing it for Vegas.
You know?
But it was great, guys.
It's time to party.
Okay.
All right,
Thanks
man.
again.
All right.
For sending the shot. See you, buddy.
All right, guys.
Have a good day,
All right,
bro.
man. Peace
Yeah, you
out.
too, man.
Good meeting you.
You too.
Yeah, thank you.
Bro, I'm waiting. Yeah,
Let him go. Let the man go.
Just
All
go.
right,
Here,
let
get,
him
get
go.
closer
Let
to
the
me.
man
Get
go.
more like in the shot or something.
Of course.
And fix your mic
Okay.
and stuff. But
No.
So going off of that, you guys have anything you want to bring up, and I can.
no, I think I really do understand where you're coming from in the sense that I think I especially found most interesting the thing that you said about how kind of like people when you post something, people either they run it to the ground or they support the bad habits that you're sort of developing.
Yeah. You get me?
Yeah.
That you don't really find anything wrong. It kind of
Yeah.
like builds to your
And
ego a
it's-
bit.
though, There's
And
people want to be nice, right?
Developing, you always want, because you always want that feeling of what is it, approval or like justification for what
You
you're
see,
doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
That's the thing.
art is
Mhm.
so, you hear about it everywhere as of now. It's like, oh, you want to be an artist? That's weird.
Yeah.
You're fucking weird. Congratulations, you're weird.
They want some I get what you're saying. Like they want some validation.
They want some.
that
You
they're
want
doing
some
right.
justification for drawing, because it's a lot of time to invest. To be honest, like
It
Yeah.
is. It's like
It
it's
is-
a lot of time. You'd be surprised
how
much
many
time.
years in are we all?
I am personally like what 4? Yeah, since like no 4.
Like 7.
You were 7. Like me, I
Since
was like
7
4.
years
since I
in.
started maybe like
Since
with
sophomore year, really, I started dedicating.
when I started studying 3D animation, that was like 3 years ago, and ever
Yeah.
since then now to 2D.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
for you,
it's-
Hector, I think you've been in the longest for sure.
7
Yeah.
years. Very, very, like starting out. You find a platform and you just attach to it, but
Yeah.
as you get older and you start to develop more, you start to branch out, and then you realize that those platforms are all terrible.
Yeah, I
Like,
think it's just terrible for the psyche because, like as you said, I think a
Not
lot
even
of
the
people-
psyche. It's just a lot of them fundamentally are flawed
Mm.
because
Algorithms and
there's
whatnot.
algorithms and NDAs and like
NDAs.
terms and services and things that are just really
Yeah.
awful.
He
Are you talking
knows.
about like sites where you post,
Yeah,
like art sites more or
Yeah.
less?
Well, it's like DeviantArt. They probably copyright, like
because
they copyright
DeviantArt,
your work.
there's horror stories about people finding their work in hot topics and
Yeah.
like
Oh.
there's
Yeah, man, because it's an open
there's
forum.
Oh,
there's
fair
Chinese
enough, yeah.
sites that just steal high-res files off of DeviantArt and just upload them to their sites on T-shirts.
Interesting.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
horror stories about that, and they can't do anything because
Yeah.
Because
I
that's the
mentioned it's
forum.
like when you're an artist, you're an LLC, so you're just by yourself.
Yeah.
And you have no team to like search out through the web and find
Make
out who's
sure.
fucking you over and
Right,
just
yeah.
like bam, lawyered. No, it doesn't exist.
lawyer.
Like you just have to tell your followers like, please don't buy this. If you see
Yeah.
any of your friends trying to buy this, tell them to support me on my site. like they may have a competitive price, but please understand that all the proceeds are going to me as an artist and not some Chinese sweatshop in the middle of nowhere.
Exactly.
It's
I can understand. People want to go with the cheaper price, but you also have to support the artist. It's a lot. It's a lot of money though to try to like fight something like that.
The thing with supporting artists is that artists understand that you're spending your money to get the product that they made.
They're very grateful, and you see, I think that's why it's important that you try to put out quality work, because I think you really that's one of my arguments. It's like there's people that believe in you, there's people that are willing to buy into your product, but if your product is the same as everybody else, why is it gonna sell? You know what I mean?
Definitely.
But
Most
then
definitely.
also, the point of like distinguishing yourself just for the purpose of distinguishing yourself.
Well, there's a difference between style and just like, oh, I'm gonna like
have a catch.
Have a catch, because a catch is just a fad. It's a 15 seconds of fame and then you're gone. A person that has a style lasts forever, really. Yeah. Because they define a genre. They define, like I said, Steven Spielberg, Woody Allen, or even like I'll use the animation space, freaking Hayao Miyazaki. I forget. Yeah. Butch Hartman. Butch Hartman too, and you see, it's because hello, my name's Butch Hartman. You see, Danny Phantom has 5 fingers, but you see, that's important because he's like, I developed this style to where he could have 5 fingers, and that's important, and he made it so that.
Did he ever make another cartoon that had 5-finger characters?
Tough Puppy.
I think he only had 4.
4?
I'm pretty sure they only had 4.
What about
You see, that's why Danny Phantom's so damn good, man.
Because of the 5.
You watched all of it. I know you did. You degenerate.
I've watched it twice. Yeah.
Oh my god.
He's my favorite superhero.
But you see, that's why it's like
the crypto to super.
If he was an Endgame, that'd be a different story.
He would get snapped out of oblivion. What is wrong with you?
I hope he gets. Nah, like what would he do to?
Yo, he'd come back with the Ghost Squad, baby. Thanos can't beat a ghost.
Suit in the movie, remember?
Yeah,
the Ghostbuster. Wait,
let me see Thanos fight Skulker.
Skulker.
That's the bounty hunter with like the big suit.
Oh yeah,
I
remember that
they
guy.
got their own Hulkbuster in there.
God,
in the universe.
I don't want to use the magic gamer A word, but you know.
Oh man, what's that guy's name?
No, don't do it.
Who did Batman the Animated Series? You guys know him though, right? Like his style, like the Justice League, Batman Beyond
Yeah,
style.
that hurts the hell out of me. How dare you?
I like that.
I'm very hurt. No, I mean like that. I can't remember his name.
I know, me neither, bro. Like he's low-key a legend.
Speaking of that, do you know who illustrated the George Washington face on the $1 bill?
Nobody knows.
No.
No.
Anyone in the room? No.
Anyone
Fantastic.
in the room? Oh, just speaking to
just speaking to the walls.
Speaking
no,
to
exactly.
all the walls.
The artist with the most exposure, probably in the United States and most of the world, no one knows their name.
Well, is it just George Washington? Or do the other
Well, no, they all.
No,
have
just
different
that's like I'm saying. The $1 bill is the most ubiquitous dollar bill. Like when you're a kid, you see the dollar bill. Can you name the person who drew George Washington's face?
No.
Exactly. The artist with the most exposure, literally the most exposure you can possibly give. You don't even know their name.
But you know why? Because it's so saturated and commonplace. You know.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You're not remembered.
It's not like they credit him either, though, on the bill.
They don't. You know.
That's interesting.
That's true.
It's true.
Yeah, but it's like, again, I keep going back to the point. Try to first study. Like, a lot of people, they don't want to study or they don't want to look at artists that they like. They're just like, they just kind of jump into it and they expect to be big. Yeah. Learn the history of what is so that you know what you can do, so you know what hasn't been done.
I think that's probably the biggest takeaway. I think is understanding the root of the field that you're going into.
Exactly. And like, it's okay. Like, you're going to take your time.
Yeah, please take your time.
Don't worry about I'm not doing this quick enough. Take your time.
I think probably one of the most recommended things is just have a second job, right? Just to be working.
Depends where you live. Yeah. Really.
Well, because like is it really sustainable just by itself?
Depends
at the
on
moment?
where you live. If where I was, you could definitely do it.
In North Carolina?
Yeah, where I was, I could definitely do it.
Really?
Like that's not a problem with me.
Oh, okay.
But
so how about more here in LA?
Hell no! What the fuck?
That is a hell no.
Am I gonna make $1,700 and live in like a trash can?
Honestly, bro, buy like a $1.1 million hut in Malibu. Like it's just straight like a trash can.
Yeah, so then I guess depending on where you live, it'd probably be best to have like.
But at the same time, unless you bust your ass and just go to every single con that California has to offer. Like, what was it? We met him Anime Expo 2016. Christopher Kayako, he still follows me. He's he went to like Europe to do cons. He's doing cons all over the country.
I know there's 3 cons in California. There's a Crunchyroll Expo. That's another anime con. Anime Expo, of course, and a CDCC. SDCC.
There's
San Diego Comic
Anime
Con.
Los Angeles, WonderCon. San Diego Comic Con, TwitchCon, Crunchyroll.
You even got E3 over here. So,
E3.
I'm just saying there's a lot.
There's Anime Impulse. There's Ronin Expo. I went to.
Yeah, let's bring it back a little bit. Let's talk about Hector himself. Actually, like you did a convention recently.
Yeah, I did Ronin
not
Expo.
Recently, but it was you did Ronin Expo.
I did Ronin Expo.
Have you done any other ones after that?
I want to do Anime Impulse next year. That's definitely a big docket.
You're just kind of stepping your way up through conventions.
The big thing I want to do is just move into gradually convention hop. I want to do. I'm gonna be a con artist.
That's nice.
Just for now, until I.
You probably need to do it.
That's nice.
Yeah. That's real good.
Yeah.
I want to be a con artist.
I want to be a con artist.
You wanna
Pyramid scheme.
I just love that. That's nice.
That's nice. All right. But yeah, so convention art is something I want to do, which is an interesting space to get into because I think I mentioned to you when I went to Anime Expo 2 years ago.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mentioned how I walked through the artist alley, and when you look at a booth, I was looking around, and I told you, I was like, everything looks the same.
Yeah,
yeah,
you did.
yeah.
Yeah, you did.
That was the same.
It's like the stone in the ocean. It's pink. What is it? Steven Universe. As far as the eye can see, and I was like, that's not bad, but at the same time, do something
different,
flavorful with
or
it. Like
said,
there was the guy selling the huge like wall scrolls of Evangelion, and like he was doing Ghost in the Shell, and I was like, damn, these are like $70. I wanted one.
That's impressive.
And then Christopher Kaiko, when I saw his work, he was doing 8-point perspective work.
Wow.
And he did one recently, every Dragon Ball character. He drew every single Dragon Ball character into collage, and I'm gonna buy that.
He does a lot of collages, huh? He does a lot of collages, huh?
He does a lot of collages. He went to a bunch of Kim Jong-gi study classes.
Yeah, Kim Jong-gi.
Kim Jong-gi.
Oh my God.
Fantastic
Guys,
ink artist.
Study him. Just
please.
Look at a video of his.
Just watch. Just look at his work, dude.
He's so amazing. Oh God, he's so quick.
Yeah, he's so good. He's just very freeform and he just does what he wants, and it's very interesting.
Shout out to Kim Jong-gi.
As if he needs it.
Talents.
The man is a god.
Right. Yeah.
One of the greats.
But you see, like all these again. I keep going back to all these people develop the style. They can follow a trend.
Most people typically don't hit that kind of success until like way later in their.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's like you keep working at it, and
I think
you get to a point where you just you whip out masterwork, just masterwork.
People are like, man, how'd you get that good? And then like a lot of like artists get asked that question, man, like what'd you do to get that good? There's no shortcut.
And there's that clout thing when you're a young artist.
Yeah,
you're just like, ha, 4 years it took me to get this good. And then you see these like, dude, you just do it. Just gotta do it.
Yeah.
You get me? Like,
and I think the thing that I find interesting is that it's a continually evolving thing too. You don't just stop being good. You just keep getting better.
I remember before.
You don't hit it like a cap.
Yeah, I remember before it was Artisul and Huion and all these other tablet companies came out, and the Cintiq was like the big thing to do.
Yeah.
There was always a big pad tablet like video search where it was like, how do I get better faster?
Yeah.
And then there's just like every art YouTuber was making a video about like, how do I get better faster? How do I get better faster? And it was Sakura. Sakura's a good. He's a very good.
That's one of your influencers.
He's one of my influencers for sure. I'll explain it. So he said iterative drawing, which is essentially do your studies.
Yeah,
do your homework.
Yeah.
You goof. And then Ahmed Al-Duri did one where it was like, do your homework, do studies.
Yeah.
And then it boiled down to like, wait a minute, I should do studies.
Right. I should just do fundamentals.
Yeah, wow.
People
novel concept. Great fundamental tool, Drawbox. Drawbox.com is very good. It teaches you very good fundamentals. It's a fundamental site. Yeah.
Okay. They got a very good challenge. Do the $250 challenge with a pen.
Is it a subscription thing?
No, it's free.
It's just for free.
It's free.
It's free.
Ooh.
Okay, so one of his challenges is that you have to, with a pen, draw 250 boxes straight.
Oh.
So you have to learn how to be confident. Yeah, you have to be confident with your
line confidence is something I tell people.
Yeah. Well, the thing is though with your artwork is that you have strong line work.
Oh yeah, my line work is like I keep telling people it's like line confidence, and it's like I'm not confident with my lines. It's like just do it.
Yeah.
just say
Shia
that.
LaBeouf?
Yeah, pretty much. Just that's what it is. It's just don't be afraid to make a wrong line because you can just work around it.
I think it was really interesting. You got to the point that you made you had a set, didn't you? Didn't you have Tokyo Automata?
Yeah, I had
set?
Tokyo Amada.
That was really, you
I
made that
lost all of
barcode
that.
yourself.
I lost all of it.
That was a great collection.
It was a great collection. I loved it. Tokyo Automata was a clothing line I was gonna do. It was just mecha girls, and it was fun. It was really fun.
He does great mech design. Oh my god.
I stopped doing it recently. I need to do my yearly one. I did the dragon one a while back.
Your mech design is effing insane, man. I'll be honest, man. It's oh my lord, your line work.
Would you recommend artists doing art challenges like the you know, like
Inktober?
Inktober, yeah,
Inktober
that's what we're getting at.
It's a real son of a bitch to do. Oh my god.
He was gonna scream that one. I'm glad he did it.
I was gonna yell so loud. It haunts me. I have not finished the year.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not gonna do this year.
Inktober is honestly, it's a challenge.
If you can do the bi-weekly marathon where you do just one every 2 weeks, like you just do one piece every 2 weeks, or you try and incorporate multiple into one, you can do that. But Inktober, doing all the days is really challenging and will test your ink work to its full potential.
Yeah.
And despite what people say, you can use marker, you can use any pen, so long as it's an ink.
Yeah.
If it's digital, if it's black and it's a line, you can use it.
Yeah.
Don't say that you can't do it digitally. Don't say you can't use any tools. So long as there's black lines, you can do it.
There's a big perception out there that the more expensive your stuff is, the better you get.
No, not at all. No. You don't need a Cintiq. You don't need any kind of display tablet. It just, all a Cintiq does is it makes your workflow faster.
Exactly.
Makes it more convenient, but you don't need it at the time because you haven't developed the skill to use it.
It's like if I buy an $800, like, let's say I buy an $800 welding machine, will it make me a better welder?
Yeah.
No. I don't even know how to fucking weld.
Exactly. You know, it's just.
Well, I think the biggest thing about drawing is it's mostly muscle memory, isn't it?
Yes, a lot of muscle memory. A lot of
so
development.
You can't really like cheat that.
It's like, it's in the simplest form, boiling it down to like what its core fundamental is. It's like jazz. It's like you improv.
Jazz?
Everything is improv when you're doing
Shout out to the
characters or
B-movie.
anything. You just when you're doing when you're doing fan art, there's a guideline to. I want to draw, let's say, Link, right?
Yeah. Please do.
You know how Link looks.
I do.
But it's a matter of how you're gonna pose him.
Oh yeah.
What's his proportions gonna be?
Composition.
What's the composition? What's the context? Who's in it? What are you gonna do? What colors are you gonna use?
Is it Toon Link or is it Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, what iteration? You know, there's a lot you can do with that, and
Yeah.
it's great because you get artists doing some crazy shit with Link, and it's fun. Like when artists do crazy things with characters that are well known, I love that. I love just seeing weird shit with characters that I know, and it's great
because it's not really the same as everything else as everyone else.
It's because of their style, right?
Yeah, it's like when I don't want to name drop. Never mind.
I mean, is it so much like their style is unique, you appreciate their style, but then also it's a matter of like it's different, or is it just like you're attracted to?
It stands out. I love artwork that stands out. I love artwork that just feels like unique to them. Like they put their own. They like it's from
their
them.
Own flair, yeah.
It's not from drawing book number 129. How to draw Link. It's from you and what colors you love. Like you can make pink Link, and I'll be like, "Fuck yeah, dude! It's awesome! Hell yeah. I love it." And just getting into it and doing everything you love to do in a character is fun. It's just fun to me.
It's important. Like I was thinking about it, or I was like, you know, I think you do have to kind of separate yourself from your work just a tad bit, just to make sure that you're able to look at it objectively. Like, you know, that good test where you like flip it.
Oh, the flipping the canvas. Hell yeah.
Flip the canvas test is always so heartbreaking because you're like, hey man, this looks great, and then you turn around and you're like, oh no. Oh no!
Oh jeez!
Oh Jesus!
To anyone who's untrained, when you're drawing, you get so used to seeing one angle of your own artwork that flipping it will help you see mistakes because you're untrained again, because it looks different.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. One thing I've learned recently is when you're coloring work, especially digitally, have a black layer, like solid black layer on top, set it to color in any program you're using. There's always a program that has color. And then just check your values. Value checking is important for making your foreground stand out and your background not stand out. Then there's rules to that, and there's fundamentals to that in coloring and whatnot. And
See, there's a lot you got as an artist you have to learn before you even try developing a style. Like, you know, there's probably a lot of you out there that don't know what he even like said. I still don't even know what he even said right now.
Yeah, there's I can go into clipping masks. Dude, that's a whole other beast.
I know clipping masks.
You know clipping masks?
I think so.
Do you know how to do?
I know how to make a clipping mask.
Okay. Do you know what to do with the clipping mask?
Paint.
Yeah, you're close. Do you know what layer modes to use?
What?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot to do in art. With,
so it's okay.
It's okay to not understand. It's okay to experiment too.
It's okay to experiment.
There's tools there, like when you buy a site or you acquire it completely legally and totally free.
Absolutely.
On the market. Yeah.
On the market, of course.
For cheap though.
For very cheap.
With a great discount.
5 fingers. You can count it on one hand.
You know, you could otherwise call it a
highway robbery. Oh wait, no. Pirate. Wait.
Free 99.
There it is.
Or running, you know, on the railroad tracks with.
Okay.
With someone.
But yeah, there's tools to your disposal. Don't be afraid to get in there and test it. If it doesn't look good, change it. You're not stuck. You're not like when you're painting or you're doing colors or you're with a marker. You're not stuck to just one color. You can change it. You can hit Control U. You can change it. It's okay. Nobody's gonna judge you. Nobody's gonna see it. No. Unless you're streaming and you're screwed. Sorry.
Yeah, then you're screwed.
The thing that I think is most interesting is that because you're coming from a very like freelance perspective, but I'm curious of what it's kind of like as someone that's just going into an industry.
In a professional space,
yeah,
there's a lot of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
There's a lot of imposter syndrome.
Because the thing is, it's very difficult to sort of distinguish yourself,
from
you know,
from
as in between or number 27.
Yeah, from the stories I've heard, it's like it's very know how to use your time. Like, was it Keenan Lafferty, Kale, a great YouTube artist? He mentioned how when he was working for Riot, how he had to decide which meetings to go to and which meetings to like get rid of, because he was a splash artist and I think character artist. But he was basically like, I don't need to be here. Why am I in this meeting? And he would leave.
Yeah, watch the time when you're drawing. It goes by quick.
Yes, please.
You know?
Manage your time, because if you don't have the time to sit down and work on it, it's going to be a pain in the ass.
Honestly,
how much time would you say you should schedule out?
How much time would I say?
A day? Or
a whole day. I think a whole day every once in a while to schedule out.
Okay.
Because there's always
everybody say something like an hour a day.
Every artist has their go-to like character or piece to draw, or like thing they draw, just to like way they can loosen up and not even warm up, just like loosen up and realize like, okay, I can still do this. It's still committed to memory. I have a friend who he draws a Stolfo as a warm up. Like whenever he doesn't know what to do, he just draws a Stolfo. Okay. That's it.
A Stolfo?
Yeah, from Fate.
Yeah. Oh, never mind. I thought you were talking Legend of Zelda.
No, Stolfos.
Yeah.
No, a Stolfo is a pink-haired trap.
Oh no.
Yeah, there you go.
By the
Where's
way,
that
they
from
are
Fate?
not gay.
Where's that from Fate?
Oh, what do you mean?
It's probably from
Fate.
Apocrypha?
Yeah, it's from Apocrypha.
Oh, never mind. I don't know then. Never mind. I didn't watch Apocrypha.
Yeah, you watched Stay Night, didn't you?
I watched
Zero?
I watched
The guy right here.
both Stay Nights, Zero. I never got to watch the movie.
Movies are good, bro. Movies are insane.
The movie is Heaven's Feel, right?
Heaven's Feel. There's Passage Flower too. I
Sorry,
forgot the name.
Heaven's Feel.
All right, I think this is a great way to introduce a new segment that I was willing. I think Chris and I have talked about it before. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for You Know What's Weird?
Oh boy.
So here we go. You know what's weird? Gateways. Not like actual gates, but like I think it's interesting how people bash on like remember when Attack on Titan and Sword Art Online came out?
Yeah.
Oh, gateway like
Gateway
anime or
or
gateway thing.
I was thinking recently too about with theater, with the success of Hamilton. That's a great gateway theater for our community.
Before Hamilton was Les Mis, apparently.
Really?
Oh,
before Hamilton was Les Mis. Before.
Oh, the movie, huh? Probably.
No, it was
Really?
the play.
Just the actual play?
The actual play was like
talking about Les Miserables.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Miserables.
Yeah. Right.
And for anime before Attack on Titan and
Death Note.
it was Death Note. And, Soul Eater, and that was the good gateway.
But they tend to receive a lot of bash. How? But they're I
in
see them as
recent
essential
years,
to the
yes.
community.
In recent years, yes. And back then, it's like the gateway was like if you saw Soul Eater, there was a lot of things done in animation in that show that were quintessential to a lot of work that's done now.
Yeah.
If you watched Les Miserables, there's a lot of great content and just like historical context that's more present in more modern
Yeah.
You could even
theater.
say that like Hamilton is kind of like an offshoot of that genre in like theater, like the historical kind, and it
Yeah.
started with Les Mis.
because you're learning
Yeah.
something as well
Yeah.
as getting entertainment out of it.
Exactly.
I guess my question really here is, do they deserve a lot of the backlash that they tend to get? Not saying that they're above criticism,
Mhm. Yeah.
but in the sense that like it feels like they tend to get a lot because they're seen as overrated.
I mean, to
Well, you
become-
see, with any saturation of a consumed work, yeah, there's going to be a lot more criticism because there's a lot more people looking at it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're rightfully so. And then I also mentioned to Chris, like the last time we met up, that people are more inclined to look at hate than they are to look at
Yeah.
good things.
Uh-huh.
Like I mentioned that Voltaic Carbon, a good, I guess,
Yeah.
art friend of mine from
10
a
things
little
you
bit
hate
back.
about
He made a video about like how to get famous on YouTube as a joke, but he made a point where it's like, what video would you rather watch? 10 things I love about My Hero Academia, or 10 things I hate about My Hero Academia?
All right, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
And
the
you're
hate
more
is
intrigued by the
interesting,
hate because you're like, well, what's bad about it? So that way I know what I'm getting into.
Exactly.
Mm.
And it's like, from what I've heard about Attack on Titan, yes, there are a lot of really, I guess, looking at it now, like my big things are,
As of this
different.
recording, season 3 just wrapped up
Yeah.
earlier this week. It was great.
yeah. So a lot of they mentioned that the political climate is handled very well,
Yeah.
and that what it was advertised as, people were like, don't look at what it's advertised
think-
as, and look at it more of like a study in political science.
I think it was mostly after the end of like season 1 is where it started to get a lot.
Sword
of
Art Online, I don't
backlash.
fucking understand
Sword Art-
whatsoever. You
I
guys
still
love
like
that
Sword Art.
shit
I
so
still enjoy
much.
Sword Art.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna deny it.
You know, Kobe, what's it called? He's running his way through because Anime Expo was like a couple of days. He's like, man, I gotta watch the whole series. So he's
What?
he's running. Oh no, season 3.
Okay, I was like, hold on a second.
He's running his way through.
The
He
Madman.
watched 8 episodes last night. It's insane.
Oh yeah, no,
Like
it's
he's really running through it.
I-
Shout out
yeah,
to my
not gonna
brother
lie.
Kobe Aceves.
Unpopular opinion, definitely for sure that it's not that the writing is stellar or outstanding,
It's not.
but it's just it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
It's a good anime. Like
It's
you see,
yeah.
you know, to quote one of our favorite rappers, Jay-Z, would you rather be underpaid or overrated? You get me? It's like, yeah, like would you rather be an overrated show or would you rather be an unrecognized show? You get me?
Yeah, I get you.
And the ones that are the biggest, I mean, they just get the most hate because they are the biggest.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know? And again, as you said, right, it's like if it's pop, and again, the algorithm, right, it pursues you to want to get the most popular
Yeah.
thing, the word, like, like people like, oh, what's up with Sword Art, right? When it came out, people want to start talking
Everybody
about
was talking
it.
about
Would
Sword
you rather
Art.
say like, oh, things I love about Sword Art, or what's the catcher? Exactly. Would you rather talk about hate or love? Like people only talk about love in a genre when the movie's underrated or not a lot of people know it because it's like the little treasure.
And then they
Yeah.
become cult hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that thing that only they know, and it's like
Yeah,
oh,
you
you
just
joke
want
about-
that little
yeah.
that thing you
Yeah.
love, and then
But
when
then-
people start
I mean,
looking at
it's the same with everything, right? Once it gets big, it's like, oh, it sucks now. What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because it's popular.
Just because it's popular and
just because
people,
it's popular, and then
I
they
think
lose that magic of like, I found this gem.
Exactly.
I think it's also interesting too when because the fact that it brings in a new audience, but then the people that were already there before in that community sometimes aren't totally supportive of everyone new coming in. It's like, oh yeah, you're new to anime. It's like the thing is, I feel like they could be more supportive of the fact that you have newcomers coming into, but
Yeah.
you shouldn't just like
Bash
Bash.
people for trying to like do something.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like, the funny thing is, it's like when people watch these gateway shows, they ask like, what should I watch next?
yeah.
And then they immediately throw this weird shit at them. Like, I think I did that to you, Chris. That was funny.
Oh, you threw him out.
I threw him School Days and Mirror Nikki.
School Days
You
and
threw
Mirror
Mirror Nikki.
Future Diary. I was off the trail of Sword Art Online of a diet of like mainstream
You
popular.
threw it at me too. I watched it too.
Mainstream.
That was your
popular
guys' fault. That was a trap.
shonen stuff,
Nice
you
boat.
get me? And then I asked Hector because I knew he watched anime more than I did, right? I was like, man, like, what anime would you recommend? He's like, you know what? I got the perfect thing for you. School Days.
I
right?
got
And
the
was
right
like,
mix.
I was
guy.
like, dude, I was like, what's it about? It's a high school romance. Oh, I love high school romances, right? I was on board. School Days, say no more.
Oh my
School is in
God.
the title. It's already good for me. Then I watched it. I was like, damn, for real, bro? Like you really did me dirty like
I
that.
had to
huh?"
do it to you.
And then you're like, I was like, all
Oh,
right.
I never
fuck it.
And then
watched it.
but I
What
explained
happened?
to you. The reason I did it was because you have to understand what the
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 lowest.
weirdest point
Yeah.
is to be able to appreciate that middle ground.
Yeah, and then you showed me, and then it's really funny how you started with school days because then you said, all right, Future Diary or Miraniki,
Yeah, Miraniki.
right? And like after watching
Such a
school-
different-
it's such a different vibe, but it's kind of like it's in that same.
They feel the
ballpark,
same,
in
but
that
it's a
same
different
ballpark,
vibe.
But the quality of it, of
Yeah.
the writing, of the animation, is just so much better, and it's just like. You're right. Like when you start with something kind of sucky, you learn to appreciate even if it's just that much of a boost, right?
Yeah.
The story and
Like I'm the
I
the
still-
dude that hates
I-
your name
I still hate
and
you for
loves
that, though.
Koenokatachi.
Oh, a silent voice.
Yeah,
Silent voice is good. I mean, your
I
name.
hate your name.
The only critique I will give your name, wow.
That you didn't give him the name at the
Director
end?
Shin Kai. It's not the end. I love the end.
That they didn't give the name.
I mean, no, they did. It's like your name is, and then it pans up. It's assumed that they talk. But like the one thing I give
Also,
it
she's
is
40 and he's like 20.
I don't know for real. The character design. That's one thing I give it. The character design's really bland. Like the silent voice.
I told you,
Oh.
it's
Yeah.
like, I showed a friend of mine 3 screenshots from the show. I was like, where are the characters? He was like,
Yeah.
I can't see
A
them.
silent voice. It does have a really like distinct character design. I could.
My gripe with that movie, and the people have spoken on
Which
their
one, your
gripe,
name or-
Koenokatachi,
Oh,
Silent Voice.
Mm-hmm.
Is that he was trying to be really faithful to the manga, and it ended up running a little too long.
No.
That's everybody's conflict. I have no problem with it. I watched it and I fucking,
was good.
I cried,
I cried
dude.
too. I remember.
It's so just like resonating and like unapologetically like.
Spoiler alert! If you're listening to this, you might want to like just skip a little bit.
I'm not gonna
Like,
spoil it. I'm not gonna spoil it. I don't want to
sorry.
spoil it. I can't
Why
spoil
you got? Why you got to
Should
spoil
I,
it?
Should I? It's
Why do you
just,
have to spoil
It's
it?
integral to like.
Okay, hold on. Wait.
the whole movie.
Spoiler. Skip. I guess. Well,
Skip
you'll
by a
put.
minute.
Well,
I'm
now
around-
I got to put a time code.
Yeah,
Right,
now you put a
okay,
time code.
okay,
Or
look.
if you're listening
So
on Apple
basically
or
what
iTunes,
happens
I'm
in
sorry.
The most emotional resonant
Wait, let me see
part
what
of
it
that
says.
movie is the build up
Click
to
somewhere around here.
her doing a certain act
Yeah.
and a guy trying to save her. Like I'm not.
Dude,
trying
the
to, I'm
part
not
that
trying to
hit me
spoil it.
was the end. When the
end.
X's start
Yeah.
removing from the people's, I just like I
That
lost
is
it. I was like,
so-
holy.
Oh my
fuck.
god, I love. Like you see, that's what I mean by style. That's such a cool
It's
stylistic
such a good
choice.
like message to
Right?
where it's like
exactly. And like I felt like it was even more important because of the people watching it. Again, like
Yeah.
these like people that like anime, introverts, kind of like awkward, socially inept type of people.
Okay,
And
well,
I-
same.
And I bet. What?
You should watch Welcome to the NHK.
Welcome back. Oh my god, I'm actually rerunning through that.
I'm gonna run
Yeah,
rerun
it's
through
so
that
good.
for you.
But and it's just like, this message of like don't hate people, kind of.
Yeah, just like
Let people into your life.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful message. I know we're ranting, but
not rant. It's just the conversation of animation.
you know it's weird how good that film is.
What?
No, not your name.
Coconut,
Silent
Coconut.
Voice.
Oh yeah.
Your name's animation, I think is.
Kill
better.
Annie, my
Yeah.
favorite studio.
KyoAni. My favorite. Studio
Granted, they make
is, Trigger now.
Well, I think your name was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Studio Trigger. But I think your name was mostly focused more on the special effects. Than the
Yeah,
animation,
environments. Like
environments.
Makoto Shinkai, like his most famous attribute is that he was the guy that did like the pink,
Yeah.
sunrise or like
Yeah.
sunsets. They're really nice. Like he's really known for his atmosphere more than his character design. Where I like character design more than atmosphere.
Like, granted, if the characters were removed, I'd hang it on my wall.
Yeah, like I remember
If I could just have that, like, the comet going over the city, like that
Yeah.
scene where he's looking
True.
up. If I can just have that as like its own entity, I would just, I'd buy it. I'd buy the hell out of it.
Sorry about that, folks. Somebody
Sorry about that,
walked
someone just
into the
walked in.
set.
I guess.
Hey,
Oh.
hey, but I was probably admit
It's
to it.
interesting.
But
Yeah.
anyway, he bought me a vinyl that was $80. Could you believe it? Love this man. But he bought me a vinyl that was for $80. And $80.
Buy it on Amazon.
Was it 80? It was 80, right?
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, it was $8.
Was it 80? Okay.
It's actually like $5 in a Chinese warehouse. Anyway.
Anyway, so
Why did you send me that?
when you open the centerfold, there's this beautiful lantern. No, it's like the sky when the comet is
Oh,
entering
it's
the
a
atmosphere
great-
at the beginning of the
picture,
movie.
yeah.
Like Makoto Shinkai is so good at like just environments and like special effects like that in general.
Yeah, very.
And KyoAni has really good character design.
Their animation is very
Incredible.
fluid.
Yeah, and then Ufotable. That used to be my favorite studio, but not anymore really because like I
Fate.
think Ufotable really does focus on special effects more than like character animation.
Well, it's made in an engine, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I love Trigger though. I think that's probably my favorite
Studio
studio. Studio Trigger. I just love the way the animation moves. how junky everything is.
Yeah, Trigger is like, was it somebody? I think it was Demolition D to reference YouTubers, but he mentioned is like Trigger's the guy in the office with unbridled talent but never does anything.
Low key, bro. 'Cause
Like
he never makes a
they'll
second
put out
season.
fucking amazing work and then clip art.
Yeah, they would, bro. Straight up.
Like I love Trigger to death. I'm glad they have a Patreon.
They do.
I really
Yeah,
want
they're
to
one of
start
the few
contributing.
Anime studios that actually has a Patreon.
That's very good.
You know?
I highly
I
support that model.
definitely think it's necessary.
Yeah.
You need that kind of fan base support.
Oh, but like they don't need it though. Like, you get me?
Well, I guess so.
It's more like, oh, okay, like we love you guys so much, we want to give you more content.
Yes.
You get me? Like we want to give you more behind.
Well, it's
the
like
scenes stuff.
it's like $1 to get to like support.
Yeah, and like get more behind the scenes.
It's
stuff,
insane.
Like
It's like
keyframes.
$1 to see inside of a studio.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, you
Wild.
get me? And you're supporting directly to the studio. There's no
Yeah.
like middleman. Like, sorry, Aniplex, you suck. You know, like
You're
you know,
going
and
through
it's- you know
Sony.
Why you guys suck? It's because you guys charge like $169 for like a 12 series anime. I hate
How much
you
do you
guys for
spend on
that.
the
12
Sword Art
series?
Blu-ray?
12 episodes. Sorry.
How much do you spend on
Failure.
the Sword Art
But-
Blu-ray?
Oh,
My Sword Art Blu-ray cost $80 and it was only half a series. Thank you, Aniplex. You know. And then
Now,
my,
how much was that Fate Blu-ray?
that Fate, bro?
I was there when you
Fate.
bought it.
For
Don't you
both of
try
them-
and hide
for
from
both
me.
of them. It was like $350 for both of them for the whole series.
I never spent that much money on myself.
You
Wait,
know?
I did.
And like Sentai Filmworks, if you're listening, I love you guys to death. Keep doing your packaging. It's so amazing. Like my
Yeah,
brother has
The
all
thing with
good,
Blu-rays
yeah.
is that their packaging is always like they always
I-
include
yeah.
pretty good work.
Aniplex packaging is whack. I mean, they do include the soundtrack, which I do. I like the soundtrack.
They kind of throw like a flimsy cardboard like shell at you.
Like, you
and
get
it's
me?
like-
But like, you know, like Sentai Filmworks, they really like they pack it, and it's really they even like do like special packaging, and I love it. Thank you.
yeah,
Sentai.
yeah.
I gotta say, I
Yeah,
think the
it's
thing for me with shows is that I will, as a writer, I tend to focus a bit more on the writing.
Mm.
What's
But-
your show
but I
with
love the
the
animation.
what's your anime with your like
Favorite
what's the
writing?
anime with your most favorite writing? Like
I think
Ah,
it's
that's interesting.
for me, it's still Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
that's very good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love the way
Fullmetal.
just like it all kind of like
Brother.
comes together, and the way it slowly expands. It comes from something bigger than it
Yeah.
was before. I think it's,
I
it
like
does
Dragon
that
Ball
well.
Z. Talking about Dragon Ball. Kidding.
I'm sorry, like you know,
And it's very well animated as well. Studio Bones, good
Studio
job
Bones
with
is very good at it.
Yutaka Nakamura. Shout out to Yutaka.
that. I think
Yeah.
the voice acting though is I think its most redeeming quality.
yeah,
yeah.
the dub, the English dub is so amazing.
One of the few tolerable of that era that can actually stand up
next
next
to
to
the test.
Yeah.
It's really good, honestly.
Before we wrap this up, I guess let's. You guys want to say your favorite shows at the moment?
My favorite shows. at the moment.
My favorite show right now, I really I don't know what studio did it, but Rise of a Shield Hero is
Oh, that
premiere.
one.
Yeah, it's really good. I was actually talking about it with my brother earlier. We were driving to get the badges for Anime Expo, and I was telling him like it's a basic isekai Legend of a Shield Hero, right? Or the Rise of a Shield Hero, sorry. And but they twist it in such a good way that it actually gives emotional resonance, and there's a really good reason as to why a character acts a certain way.
Mm.
You get me? And it's like you get it. Like it's not just like, oh, he's the main protagonist, plot armor. It's
Yeah,
like,
of course.
okay, we understand his motivation. And it's
Yeah.
such like it's weird to say that's such a new thing in anime, but like
It's
it's
been a
kinda
thing in
true.
manga for a
Yeah.
while. I
Mm.
know that
Yeah.
that it was a history strongest disciple Kenichi. The main character like dies.
really?
He just dies.
Damn.
Like Hajime no Ippo, the main character gets knocked out and he's
boxer,
just
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like great manga. Anyway,
You
go on,
know,
sorry.
like anime MCs will be like, I'm just a 15-year-old kid, and they'll be like jacked.
yeah, JoJo.
JoJo.
I love
I'm
JoJo.
just an ordinary 15-year-old
Yeah.
doing like 100 push-ups,
Just me.
eating like 5 eggs.
The boy.
It's funny.
Honestly, bro.
Yeah, it's really funny.
And
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated the hell out of Attack on Titan season 3. I'm gonna have to figure something else out.
I'm
to
about to watch
right
it now too because you got me on that train. I saw the first episode of the
Oh,
second
that's-
season.
It's very well. You saw the clip, I think, too, of
Yeah,
Captain
of
Levi.
Levi versus the Beast Titan. That's
That was
insane,
great
bro.
clip.
I was like, damn, that's why they took so long.
Yeah. Hector, you got one at the moment? Or you just
I went back to the 80s. I started
Really?
watching Gunbuster
really?
Gunbuster
by Hideaki
From
Anno, his
Gainax,
first work.
from
Yeah.
Gainax. Jesus Christ.
Fantastic work. Very basic. I love it.
Mhm.
It just screams 80s anime.
Yeah.
And it makes me so happy to watch. I
Yeah.
love things that just like it's either they gotta be so closely related to reality to where they're making a commentary, like I mentioned to you, it's like Welcome to the NHK
is very
or
beautiful, yeah.
Koe no Katachi, like things that talk about, or Tokyo Godfathers
Yeah.
was a good movie that I really enjoyed. Or they gotta be on the fucking like whacked out spectrum to where you're like, was it Punchline I mentioned, where it's a girl who beats people up with a straw. It's very fun. Or Gunbuster, where it's just like mechs and space and explosions and lasers.
Yeah.
And like Kill la Kill, which is just screams anime.
Just titties everywhere.
It's just so it's got like being in between is not something that I like in anime. I like the far spectrum.
Okay, fair enough. Any last words that you'd have to any artists upcoming or in the field at the moment?
Do what you love. Don't feel pressured to post. Put out great work and
always put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
Study history. That's my main thing. Study the field. Study the
Find
history
who you
of
love and hold on to them.
And look, a good cheat, if you want one, I know there's no shortcuts, but a good kind of like cheat is to look at your influences. So like, Hiroyuki Imaishi, right? The guy that founded Trigger, he was influenced very highly by Hideaki Anno's Gainax. And when you see Gunbuster, you see the lineage of carrying on to Imaishi's work. So it's very important that you see like, okay.
Very expressive animation.
Exactly.
Very expressive.
And you want to kind of see that little train that happens. You know, I mean, like, real good quote from Winston Churchill. It's like, you can't see the future too far ahead. You have to grab the link of destiny one at a time. I think that was the quote. I think I might have butchered it, but like you have to just take your time and be patient and study the history.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuances you'll notice, and you won't really appreciate until you see the original works.
Exactly.
Well, considering I grew up with a lot of Western animation, I would have said more Hanna-Barbera, Chuck Jones, and Butch Hartman.
That's very true.
Yeah, because that's a good lineage. But Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Actually, if you're studying anime, you should study Disney because that's a history lesson, but that's basically where a lot of Japanese animation came from. People wanted to be Disney because Disney was huge.
Yeah,
Disney was the apex of animation.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, yeah. I was just gonna say like we'll see how long. But
Ooh, okay. But
the thing finally. Oh, I thought the thing finally gave out. All right, I think we're gonna end this episode here. Thank you all for joining us. And we will see you on the next episode of the Startup Podcast. Actually, Hector, we hope to have you back.
Oh, I'll try my hardest.
Follow Hector at
Conekodraws.
At Conekodraws on Twitter. You can try my Instagram. See what I can do.
It's CONEKO draws.
We're gonna have to have you back to ask you how the name came about and some of our
history. I have the on my Instagram story.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, I'll explain it though.
We can talk about some art history.
I'll talk about art history.
I would love it.
This one's run off long enough, but we'll get to it. We'll have him back another time.
Yeah.
But for now, we'll see you guys on the next episode.
All right, see ya.
Fuck, I didn't hit stop.
Oh my.